Okay, so I have all of my data that I've brought over from Excel. It's now into Logger Pro, and my job now is to do something about the outliers. Really important. I'm not going to delete the outliers. I'm not going to throw them away. I'm not going to pretend that they're not there. What I want to do is have them just not confuse my analysis. Deleting data, throwing away data that you don't like, it's dishonest. Don't do that. It's wrong. But it is totally legitimate to be like, I have this data, I'm putting it over in a box over here. If I need to look at it later, if somebody wants to look at my lab and be like, hey, what data did you take? Is there some you didn't like? Yeah, it's over there in the box. You can show them. So I have all this data I've brought over. First things first, you may look at this graph and go like, well, I can't see anything on this graph. That's probably because pasted it in and Logger Pro picked a terrible scale. So I'm going to look at this and I would like to look at my data to decide what's an outlier. I'm going to say the biggest values on here are like, 3/4 of a second. So I'm going to go over here for my maximum time and I'm going to go, I don't know, 0.7 seconds. Oh, now I can see what's going on. Do I have anything hiding up here? No. So I can look at this data and I think you can notice that there is a part of the data that is lying along a very beautiful, nice, attractive trend. And then there's other data that's like off in the wilderness, maybe because of a calculation error, maybe because of a problem with sound recording, all kinds of things. We would like to mark those outliers. And in Logger Pro, what we call what we're going to do to them is strike through. So I'm going to pick an outlier. Say this outlier, I'm going to pick, actually, this is a good example here. I'm going to pick this outlier here. And I'm going to select the outlier. And notice that over in the data table, the data gets selected. Now, at this point, it'd be nice to be just like, oh, that's perfect. That's the data point I want. But one thing you have to be really careful of is this. If I select this data point here, notice that a lot of data points got selected in the table. Boom, boom, boom. That's because Logger Pro doesn't really do rectangular selections. It's taking everything in that time range. So it's really important that you know exactly which data point you want. So I'm going to select that. Is that the data point I want? I don't know. I'm going to select it in the table. That's the data point I want. We'll see in a moment if this is correct. If that's my outlier and I don't want it in here, I've got it selected in the table. I go to Edit and I go to Strike Through Data Cells. When you hit strike through data cells, two things are going to happen. One, Logger Pro is going to draw a line through the data values in the table. Not going to delete them, just draw a line through them. It's like still there, and it's also going to take it off the graph. So, boom. No, it's a really good idea when you're doing that to be watching the graph and make sure that you just lost the data point you actually wanted to lose and not some other data point. If in fact it was some other data point that you lost, what you can do is you select the data cells that you're like, oh, oops, I really want to keep those cells. I've selected the data cells, hit the row, and I'm going to go back to Edit, and I'm going to say Restore Data Cells. Restore Data Cells. And if I go Restore Data Cells, look, it's back on the graph. But the big picture is I want to go around here, and I want to select the data cells that I think are outliers. There's one. I think that's an outlier. I'm going to select it just in the table. I'm going to go Edit, Strike Through Data Cells. And you're going to go around and do that for all the things that you think don't lie on the trend. Now, don't over clean your data. Like if you look at this, it's like, yeah, okay, there's a whole bunch of things here. Don't go here and just kill off points because they're not perfect. Striking through outliers is really only for getting data points that clearly something odd was going on with and taking them out of your analysis. If stuff is close to your main trend, you really ought to leave it in there. So I'm going to just strike through. If you look carefully, you'll notice that this is not perfectly cleaned data. Ooh, see what just happened? A whole bunch of things got struck through. And that's exactly the thing you want to be careful of. I'm going to just go undo. Undo. But that's the idea. Go through, find each data cell or each data point. There's my data point. Select it in the table, edit, strike through, and do that until your outliers are off the graph. Go do it.